guarantees. Well, with us on the phone, the man, the myth, the legend, Steve Azar, host of In a Mississippi Minute, a musician and our state's music and cultural ambassador. Steve, good morning. How are you doing?
Listen, thank you for having me. I noticed that you guys sort of do a little bumper in there about interesting people around the state, so I'm gonna change that during this interview with you. So I'm gonna be uninteresting as possible.
In my experience, that comes close to being impossible, Steve.
I'll tell you what, I just told Will, I said, the guys are down there doing the floors. I was at the state game last night with my buddies from Pearl River, Matt, and we were, and I drove last night home, and it was a deer convention and fog. So I was making my way home going like, man, I don't know if this is going to work out. But anyway, I had to go hide because the guys are doing our floors, and I'm in the closet right now talking to you guys.
Well, I appreciate that level of commitment, Steve. That's something serious right there. But it is that time of the year that's great for deer hunting and very bad for driving because they're moving, that's for sure.
Yeah, sure. Well, 82 is great having it wide open like that. At least it gives you a chance. Back in the day, when we grew up, we didn't have such luxury, so it's great that
a two-lane road with tiny little shoulders on it. It's kind of a different situation.
Gosh, it was always squeezing the steering wheel to death.
I had never, and we'll get off of deer after this, unless you got more deer content. But I had never learned, and I should have known this, but I never. If somebody ever told me this, I didn't remember it. But 20 years ago, I was driving and saw a deer middle of the road. I was on a highway going. I'm going to say I was going 70 miles an hour. And
statute of limitations is up on that.
That's a good point. I was young and going faster than I should have. And instead of doing all the things you're supposed to do, turn the lights off, let off the gas, I thought, what you should do at this speed is slam on the deadgum brakes. And I'm telling you, I was on the side of the Blue Ridge Mountains, and I was lucky that my car swerved left into the center median. But I remember I was on the phone with my mother and hung up because I was like, I'm fixing to have a crash. She doesn't need to be on the phone for this. And that car stopped, no lie, 6 inches from this massive tree that was on the median. And I drove out of there lucky as I could be. But be safe out there, folks, especially if you're driving at night.
Yeah, you just gave my feet. I feel like I'm on top of a roof sliding off right now. That's that feeling I get. I don't even want to hear about it.
Yeah, it was a bad deal. Well, we got some new old music, right? Am I wrong about that?
That's how you say it. It's interesting. I don't have to be me until Monday. Obviously, my biggest radio hit.
Yeah.
It's been, it's amazing. It's been amazing. It's one of the top played songs in country radio in the last 20 years. So we thought it'd be a good idea at some point to reinvent it. But when you do a remake, 20, so it's called the 20th anniversary edition. When you do that, I feel like it's really got to be what people expect and they've come to know. You can't just venture off. So what we did was it's got more verb and reverb. I call it soup. It's got a little more soup on it, but we really tried to recreate it. I even used the same microphone that I used.
Oh wow!
And did a lot of the same stuff. But anyway, I'm really happy with the version, and this is also the version that I've been using with Pearl River Resort for all the commercials and all that we've been doing, and just having a lot of fun with that as well. So it's got a double whammy with it, which is great. But the plan was all along the last 5 years to go ahead and do that and be prepared. We're a handful of months late, but we just wanted to let the holidays get by and Christmas get by. Difficult time to ever release music is Christmas, unless it's a Christmas song.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it was released yesterday, then, is that right? Or
yeah. So it's out, so people can go compare the two versions. That song is it's really weird. It was what I needed, but that song sat on record labels' desks for 2 years, just like it was. We had made the original record in a garage, in a basement, with my producer Rafe Van Hoy, and all the record labels said it's not country, or it's not radio won't play it. It's just not country enough, but it's not rock enough. And I was going like, what are you talking about? So then I wrote Waiting on Joe, and then that's when I got signed, and that's when we went back and they said, we got to do Monday first. And I said, well, we could have done that 2 years ago. So, but you know what? I don't write Waiting on Joe if I'm not waiting on what I was waiting on. So, you look back at those times and you're going like, why can't let's just go? But as a songwriter, you need those, you need something to push you and to make you get better. And I mean, I couldn't imagine my life without writing Waiting on Joe. It would not have, as a songwriter, it wouldn't have mattered. That's what got me to One Mississippi and all that. I learned to be vulnerable with Waiting on Joe. I learned to bear it all. And at that point, I thought I was, but I never was.
So you hadn't been signed until Waiting on Joe. I mean, were you selling songs but not on a label?
Well, I had a false independent start that I had great relationships with about 5 big markets around the country, from Kansas City to Detroit to Saginaw to where else? Akron, Ohio. There were some Midwestern towns that would, even with the bad first album in the mid-'90s, I was able to go play live in those places, and they saw that there was more to me. And so when I put Monday out, in fact, we decided to sort of force Monday on the label after they signed us because they really weren't sure what they wanted to do. You got me thinking back now. It was those 5 markets that decided to just jump on Monday without the record label sending it because they already had it, because I already sent it to them for, 2 years before, a year and a half before. And they just started playing and it started to work. Now, you talk about timing and everything. It was the number 1 most added song once the record label said yes in the country. So here we go. Everybody's going, here's time for a hit. And the next day was 9/11.
Oh, wow.
And then it didn't matter again. So once again, we went through this, and it had to go through that. And trust me, a song means nothing compared to what we went through. And I just felt like it. So the song literally died 11 times. It's called losing its bullet. When you lose your bullet once or twice, you're done. This 11 times. And anyway, it survived and became a big hit about 8 months later. And it was a journey, but it was definitely imperative in my career. I can tell you that.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Was that the moment? I mean, I feel like people who've had the kind of careers you have can point to the one song, the one part, the one something that was the life-changing moment. I mean, was that the one for you, or had that moment already happened at this point?
No, I grew up playing. So you got to realize I grew up playing. When I graduated college, I was playing. I had 200 one-nighters. My brother was running the show for me. We had 200 one-nighters on the books. We went from a small van to 2 28-foot trucks eventually, 10 guys on the payroll. And I was doing a lot of my originals. It's 4 hours worth of music. So half a show was my originals, half the show were cover tunes. So we could play everywhere. And so we were already used to being out on the road and working really hard. Sometimes I do 2 shows in a day at 3 hours away. We were nuts. And so we were making a really good living for not having that radio success. Back then, man, you couldn't just go on your computer and make a record. It's all files now. It's so easy. But with us, it cost thousands and thousands of dollars to make one song. So you had to wait on a record company to sign you. So it's so different now, and I love it the way it is because it frees me up to really focus in on writing about what I want to write about. It's why I was able to move back to Mississippi, starting to produce my own records and all that, and produce other artists. But, yeah, it was pivotal. But Waiting on Joe was the game changer. Once Morgan Freeman jumped in the video and did what he did, that was my face, and that was who I was as a person. And I think there's been a disconnect over the years at times with I Don't Have to Be Me Till Monday and me, because they waited to the very end to do the video. The video went number 1, but they waited. They weren't going to shoot a video. It was just so we just sort of blew it a little bit. And then Napster happened.
Oh, yeah.
I was into watch, so I was one of the Napster babies that there were all these illegal downloads. So I actually went to Washington. They brought me there as one of the most illegally downloaded records of the year. That's
wow.
what I recall. That may not be true, but who knows?
That's I don't know. I don't know if that's a good problem or not. But hey, Steve, can you stick with us for another segment?
Yeah, man, I love it.
Hey, y'all, this is Lucian Smith here in for Gerard Gibbert on middays on SuperTalk Mississippi. Stick with us for more with Steve 95. Well, with us by phone is still Steve Azar, talking a little bit about his hit from 20 years ago and how that's affected him and the re-release of it. Steve, tell me this: where were you, or what were you doing when you first heard your song on the radio?
I don't know. First time, Madison, Wisconsin, leaving a radio station.
Really?
Yeah, and it was surreal, and it was off my first false attempt on an independent label in the mid '90s, but still felt great. You know, it was when you knew you had a hit on the radio is when it really when you crossed into the top 20, and then everybody started patting you on the back and go, oh my gosh, and you sort of knew. That's when you knew that you were arriving, you know, and then you really have to set your sights moving forward. I was never one to throw a party, you know. It was time to really get down and get better. So I remember after I don't have to be Money and Waiting on Joe. What happened to us was our label. We were on Mercury. Mercury and MCA were going to merge, and we were told we were going to go 6 deep on my album, and they just called before a show. I was on tour at Rascal Flatts, myself, and I think it was Paisley that night. We were all in Urban. The 4 of us were doing a lot of stuff together on the CMT tour. And I was a little bit of a fish out of water. You know, the Mississippi thing is always sort of, I wanted to write about that. So I just wasn't the best at adhering to what was in the box. And they were really good at it and talented at it, like those guys. They were great, and they were all pals. But long story short, a record guy came to me and he said, well, we're being bought out, so we got to take a break. And I remember going on stage and being dizzy, like we had all the momentum. So during that year, I'd written 80 songs. I'd probably played 150 shows. And my voice, I went through some tremendous voice issues where a cyst on my throat had developed to the point where if I'd sneeze, it would bleed.
Oh, gosh.
And I eventually had to have surgery. So there was everybody goes, where'd you go? I was like, well, our label went up for sale. I had to have throat surgery. There was a lot going on. But
is that a product of, is that something you get because you were singing so frequently, or is that just terrible luck for somebody who's a singer-songwriter?
No, it was because of folks like you, because I'm messing with you right now. But the truth was having to get up in the morning, Lucian, and literally you just got through playing a show, and you had to do the after party, and you had to see all the radio guys, and the next morning you were in your bus, and you were rolling down the highway, and then at 6 a.m. you're doing the morning show. So it was no rest. I really believe anybody out there that's having vocal cord issues, it's probably because of lack of rest and talking. You know, I didn't even know how to talk. I mean, I was holding my breath, and I was this and that. Singing never bothered me. So anyway, I had to learn to talk again and speech therapy and all that. And it didn't take long, but I also learned to preserve my voice. So now I know what that feeling is when my voice gets so fatigued. So if you're out there and your voice starts to get so fatigued, you know, I think about coaches especially. At what point do you give yourself, you know, some time off? And you got to really take the time. So I learned the hard way, like a lot of us did. But I had a big old cyst on my throat, so it was, it was a tough one.
Yeah.
But it was all good, and came out. Doctor was fantastic. I told him he had the hands of a musician when it was all said and done.
Well, switching to one of your more recent songs, One Mississippi's now the official state song. I know that took a lot of work by a lot of folks, but it started with a very good song. What has that been like the last 7 months to have that be the official state song?
I don't know, Lucius, if working a hit record was harder than working, you know, because there was similar in fashion, but rightly so. I mean, it was an important moment for Mississippi. So I knew from the last 4 or 5 years, look, as a songwriter, you know, there's something when it's written, when a song writes itself, you know that there's something special because all my best songs have written themselves. They've, you know, it's just I've got a pen in and I just feel like it's just been so inspired. So, because the craft is always there now. So that song, I mean, it was a long song. I knew it was going to be a long song. I had to represent Mississippi. It had to be an umbrella over us all. And I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss a spot and that it was covered. Well, it was written for the bicentennial, and like I said, quickly. And it all fell out together, the chords and the melody and the music, and I just felt like God just sent it to me. And so I believed after 4 or 5 years of playing it live, everybody from all walks, from all race, from all, from poor to rich to middle class, didn't matter. I was getting constant when I'd play it, that's got to be our state song, that's got to be our state song. So that was coming, and then, obviously when Speaker of the House, Philip Gunn, came to me and Becky Curry, they said that they wanted to write the bill for this, I was just flabbergasted. Then we went through the whole, it was a lot. But the good news was I knew I had the support of most everybody, and it worked out. So I got to tell you, we've got a children's book coming out with Sarah Frances Hardy now. I'm so excited about.
And now, is that out, or when does the children's book come out?
Our goal is we're about to hit up people, so people listening out there, we want to give it to kids in schools. So we want to K through 3 in the fall. We want every kid to have it. She's unbelievable what she's done. She's created these 7 beautiful children, and they're going to take you through a history lesson using the lyric. They're acting out the lyric through the entire book, and it's really a history lesson. It's so beautiful. But Sarah Frances has been unbelievable to work with. She's doing a lot of the hard work, and I'm so excited about it. We're almost there, so closing in on that. And if you want to be a sponsor for it and let's get it in the kids' hands, I'm talking to you right now. But that'll be something that we do and that I feel confident about. And then the sheet music for marching bands. There's marching bands already learning it, so it's out there. We got it published and for piano, guitar, and vocal if you wanted to do that. So, there's just a lot goes on with the state song. It matters to me that we continue to sort of farm it because I want everybody to be proud of their state song and be proud of Mississippi.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot to be proud of here, and I wear Mississippi all over me, inside of me, because I believe in it, and it gave me an entire career in life. And so I owe it back.
You're so wonderful about that. Both the work you do as an ambassador for the state, and just your general pro-Mississippi attitude. Because obviously there's stuff in our history that we got to deal with. We got to be honest with ourselves about. And not everything in the state is perfect, but there is so much in the state to be proud of. And I feel like one thing Mississippians don't do a great job of is recognize the great things in the state. Be proud of being from Mississippi. Let people know the good things. And we've got a tendency to be down on ourselves, and I think it works against us.
Richard?
Steve, can you hear me?
Yeah, there you go. You just disappeared on me at the end.
I just was saying, I think it's great. I think that's will be one of the great things of your book, and one of the things we all need to do a job of, sort of emulating you and being great ambassadors for the state and recognizing the good things.
I got a lot. I got to get better, and I'm trying. But I have been around the world, most of it, and played it, and been obviously played every state in the union so many times I can't tell you. There is a magic about Mississippi, and that's why I feel like when we do our charity event every year for our foundation in June, we can't get people to leave because it is a place that it's the people. It's us.
Yeah, people. Whenever I bring friends in who aren't from here, they're always blown away. They come in and the response is always, "Well, this is great. This is not what I expected when I got on a plane to Jackson."
And I always go, "Duh."
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Come on, man. We got the best food, the best music, the best people. What else do you want? Best farming. I mean, come on.
So how can folks, if folks want to be supportive of the effort to get that book out, is that something they do through your foundation, or will there be a different vehicle, or is that still to be determined?
From that, that's such a touchy subject with all the foundation and stuff and a publisher being involved and all that. We're going to keep it separate, but, I think that's going to be one of those things that we're starting to hit folks up. And I don't, it's funny, that's a question that I should have been able to answer right now. I can't answer it, so I'm going to screw up. But maybe they can reach out to you guys at SuperTalk, or maybe just go to info at what is our email, Glenn? Anything like that? I'm on the radio. We're totally wasting SuperTalk airtime.
Well, if I don't know the answer to that, Rhino may know the answer to that.
Yeah, you can go to my website, and you go. There's a place where you can look, and you can send messages to me. So that's the best way to do it. On SteveAzar.com, just find info at maybe SteveAzar.com or something. There's a place that you can email us.
Well, Steve, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to be here with us. If y'all want to get more information, go to steveazar.com and check out the new version of I'm Not Me Till Monday.
Yeah, and do me a favor. I got a new kid that I'm producing named Drew Pulliam. The first record came out last week. It's called 16 Going on 60. Awesome record, and every 6 weeks we're going to have a new song, and it's pretty cool.
We'll check it out. Y'all, this is Lucian Smith in for Gerard Gibbert on middays here on SuperTalk Mississippi. Stay with us through these messages.